Hello! I'm here today to tell you a creepypasta. This happened a few months ago. Back in the spring, it was that strange in-between period of my life. 25 of us packed into one place, playing games and drinking too much, while other relatives got to claim the nicer, bigger rooms. I'm not complaining about the system at all. I'm just telling you how things tended to go, since I had the house to myself that night, though I figured I'd take advantage of it. According to them, the house was empty. I was in disbelief. I had heard the footsteps go up, and there was nowhere to go after that. So, he must have still been in the house. There was no other explanation. The police insisted he must have slipped past me, that I was too freaked out to notice. I knew that wasn't true, but what could I say? The guy had vanished. I wasn't comfortable letting the police just leave, though, so I called Rick. The master bedroom on the second floor has a private bathroom, a massive walk-in closet, and a ridiculously comfortable bed. He snapped at the police and told them to check again, and that my life might have depended on it. So they did. They searched again, more thoroughly this time. Rick told me to follow them and watch what they were doing, and so I did. The officers moved methodically, opening every closet and checking under beds, tapping at the walls like they were expecting something hidden behind them. They pulled back the shower curtain in every bathroom, double-checked the locks on the doors and windows, and that's when they found it. One of the bedroom windows on the third floor, the room I should have been sleeping in, was unlocked. One of them stood by the door while the other one went downstairs and stepped onto the back deck. I opted to go outside with the second officer, mostly because the thought of being locked in the house with some stranger sickened me. The varlet officer shone his light around the property. He started scanning the roof, and to my horror, his beam swept across something terrifying. It was him. It was that disgusting-looking bald man in tattered clothing, who looked like he had UND seen a shower in years. The next hour was a The cops communicated with each other, and they got the guy off the roof and cuffed. The police said he was probably homeless and squatting in the house for days, maybe longer. But when they asked him how he got in, how long he'd been there, and why he was hiding in the closet, he didn't answer. He just kept that eerie, vacant look, like none of it mattered to him. He was in the back of one of their police cars shortly after that, and that was that. The whole thing was so crazy that it's still hard to wrap my head around. As much as I try, I cannot figure out why that guy had been hiding in that closet of all places. Maybe he heard me enter the house and hid in the first place, he thought of. I still don't know how he got into the house. Rick, it's impossible to get to the roof from the ground, so I feel like that explanation is pretty illogical. The rest of my extended family has been insisting that Rick ups his home security, but he's refused every time, for reasons I can't explain. The thought that had I been sleeping in my assigned bedroom that night, that it might have ended very differently. The decision wasn't exactly difficult. I knew that's where I'd be sleeping. I climbed in around midnight and quickly drifted off. Those two activities are honestly the only distinctive things about our family. I was still a little groggy, but I was dead sure a sound had just come from the closet, like something had fallen in it. The footsteps moved across the floor, but instead of heading downstairs like I had expected them to, they actually creeped upstairs to the third floor. My stomach churned. The only staircase led up. There was no exit from there. My mind was screaming at me to do something, but I was too afraid. I couldn't overpower a grown man. I had no idea if he was armed. The only thing I could do was wait. After a few painful moments in my own head, I worked up the courage to snap myself out of the paralysis. Quietly, I reached for my phone and dialed 911. As soon as the dispatcher picked up, I whispered as quietly as I could, telling them someone was in the house. I slipped out of bed and just as quietly turned the lock on the bedroom door. Then I waited. Minutes dragged painfully by until flashing red and blue lights illuminated the window. I was actually kind of shocked at how quickly the police arrived. I ran down the stairs, threw open the front door, and nearly collapsed in relief when I saw the police. Without making any noise, I craned my head to look at the closet. Even that small action sent my heartbeat racing. My mind was awake, but my body refused to move, like some kind of sleep paralysis without the paralysis. I could move. I just didn't want to. I didn't want to find out if there was something in that closet. I squeezed my eyes shut and told myself to go back to sleep, and I almost did. But the literal second I started drifting back into sleep, I heard it, a muffled thump from inside the closet. I squinted my eyes just a smidge and tried convincing myself I'd imagined it, but I knew I hadn't. As if overcome by some invisible force, I laid there in complete paralysis, with no control over my body whatsoever. Bro, until that moment, I didn't truly understand what it meant to be frozen in place. I listened in horror as the closet door slowly creaked open. Bro, barely open eyes. I watched as a dark figure stepped into the room. It just stood there beside the bed, motionlessly, watching me. Maybe 20 seconds passed, each second feeling impossibly long. Then, silently, it turned and left the room. This house isn't exactly on the shoreline, but it's not too far from the beach either. It's nestled in a quieter neighborhood, lined with tall beach grass and winding roads. Fast forward to some random day of the week that I honestly can't even remember. I think it was like a Thursday or something. I left in the late afternoon, which in hindsight was probably a dumb idea. The drive was pretty chill. When I got to the house, everything seemed normal. I made my way inside and ran through Rick's checklist. I checked the faucets, the breakers, and walked the property. Everything looked fine. To be completely frank, it felt strange being there alone. I'd never seen that house without miscellaneous board games sprawled about and crowds of family members noisily drinking. The silence was definitely the most eerie thing about it. The place felt abandoned or something. I'm sure all of you have that one place, be it a house or a restaurant or something else, that gets really rowdy when your whole family spends time there together. Now try to picture that place empty and silent. Kind of spooky, right? Anyway, it was getting late, and I hate driving at night more than anything. So, I texted my mom to let her know I'd just stay overnight and head back in the morning. She told me that was a good idea and reminded me to thank Uncle Rick for letting me stay there, which I did. I made myself some food, messed around on my phone for a bit, and then started washing up for the night. I had just graduated, no real responsibilities yet, and way too much free time. I'd finished school a semester early, which seemed like a great idea when I was drowning in assignments. But once I actually had all this free time, I had no clue what to do with it. My full-time job wasn't starting until June, and most of my friends were still busy with classes or finals. So, until then, I was just floating, feeling like I was stuck in the gap between two phases of my life. It was actually really discomforting and made me feel worthless. I'm someone who always needs to be doing something productive. So just sitting around for days on end watching time pass was killing me. Dad S. Probably why I said yes. when my mom asked me to check on my Uncle Ricker's beach house. It was an easy favor. Drive down to Rio Beth Beach, make sure nothing was leaking or damaged, and do some small maintenance to save Rick the cost of hiring someone. Oh, yeah. I should probably mention that I'm from Pennsylvania, and Rick's house is in Delaware, so the drive's not so bad. Just a little over 2 hours. The house is massive, the kind that comfortably holds my entire extended family every summer. Usually during family gatherings, I'd get jammed into one of the smaller rooms on the 3rd floor. I don't remember what time it was when I woke up, only that something startled me awake. I stayed completely still, barely breathing. They didn't hesitate. They stormed inside, moving quickly through the house. I waited outside, too. It didn't take them long. Rick wasn't having it. This terrifying story was sent to me by my friend Jamie. She asks that I read it on here because she's terrified of what might happen now. If you're looking for more of these type of videos, check out my channel. Also, please subscribe. Let's get into the video. My buddy Mike owns a beach house on the Jersey Shore. Calling it nice is an understatement. It's stunning, at least to someone like me who didn't grow up with much. It feels like a palace of the house has been in his family for generations. Pat, his grandparents, lived there full time before they passed away recently. Now, no one really uses it. Most of Mike's extended family lives on the West Coast, and his parents are too busy to spend much time there. Be upside, Mike has near unlimited access to the place. I think his dad had plans to rent it out for extra cash, but that never really got off the ground. It's not easy to find renters during the off-season, and honestly, I'm not sure how hard he tried. It was mid-July when Mike hit me up. Want to head to the beach house this weekend. He didn't have to ask twice. I had nothing planned, and the idea of kicking back at a quiet beach house sounded perfect. His plan was simple. Beach by day, boardwalk at night. No crazy party. Just a chilled out weekend away from the usual noise. That Friday, I packed a bag and tossed it into Mike's trunk. We drove down together. Night one, we arrived around 6 p.m., dropped our stuff off in the upstairs rooms, and settled in. Plus, the place had that familiar old beach house smell. Salt air, aged, wood, and just a hint of something musty. Not unpleasant. More like history baked into the walls. After grabbing some subs from a local shop, we took a walk on the beach. Mike had brought a couple of fishing rods, so we cast lines more for the vibe than the catch. We crossed paths with two girls about our age. They were barefoot in the sand, walking the shoreline. Mike naturally started chatting. They were local or close enough, and we had one of those effortless, slightly flirty conversations that only happen late at night by the ocean. We got their numbers. They moved on. We kept fishing. Eventually, Mike led us to one of his favorite quiet spots tucked between houses. Dunes blocking the lights. No sound but the surf and the wind. The kind of night that makes you forget real life even exists. The next morning we got up around 9 a.m. and went for a light run on the boardwalk. It was warm already, but a breeze off the water kept it manageable. Nothing intense, just a few miles to get moving. The rest of the day drifted by. That evening, Mike floated the idea of hitting the bars in Seaside. We passed. We were sun-drained and didn't feel like shouting over music. So we crashed early, beeping sometime after midnight. I woke up to a sharp, piercing beep. At first, I thought it was part of a dream, but it didn't stop. Lying there in the dark, I realized it was real. A smoke detector, maybe. The kind of sound that cuts through your skull. I jumped out of bed and tried to pinpoint the source. It wasn't coming from my room. In fact, it sounded like it was coming from above me. I rushed into Mike's room, shook him awake, and told him to follow me. He didn't ask questions, just jumped up, shirtless and barefoot, and we both bolted up the stairs to the 3rd floor. It was mostly dark up there, save for moonlight leaking in through the hallway window. We flipped the lights on, expecting fire, smoke, something. But there was nothing. No burning smell. No flickering lights. Just that terrible, high-pitched beat. We combed the rooms one by one until I finally found it. The device, it was tucked under a pillow in one of the upstairs bedrooms. Small, black object. No bigger than a walkie-talkie. Sleek, smooth, with no branding or buttons. Just a blinking red light and a single switch on the side. Beep. It started. I flipped it again. It stopped. Mike went pale, and in a whisper, "Oh my God." That means someone had to flip it on. We weren't alone. Panic set in. Fast. Mike grabbed his phone and called the cops. I locked his bedroom door and barricaded it with whatever we could find. We waited in silence. Eventually, the police arrived. We ran downstairs to meet them and explained everything. Dead. They did a full sweep of the house while we waited outside, shivering barefoot in the summer night. What they found chilled us to the bone. Every window on the 3rd floor was wide open, even the tiny ones in the bathrooms. The beds had been flipped, drawers yanked. The room where I found the device ransacked. We had been up there just minutes before, and it was completely untouched. Now everything was chaos. The police found no footprints, no signs of forced entry, no tools, no answer. They advised us to keep the windows locked and call again if anything else happened. Then they left. We stayed the night. Mike and I didn't feel safe, not even close, but it was late. And we didn't have a better plan. So we told ourselves we'd stay until morning, then leave for good. Luckily, the rest of the night passed without incident. Still, I can't stop thinking about it. About the switch, the open windows, and the timing. I keep wondering what would have happened if I hadn't turned that thing off. Or worse, what if whoever flipped it never landed? I have a very simple rule that I need you to follow. Never let your guard down, no matter how safe or familiar a situation seems. I know I probably seem like the type to ignore that advice. But honestly, that's just how my life has always been. For my whole life, my dad has been a huge stickler for safety, making sure I'm aware of my... Sadly, though, that message doesn't resonate with many women my age. Instead, they prioritize getting drunk and putting their lives at risk for a bit of misguided thrill. And to be honest, I don't really get that. Let me start this story by saying I am extremely grateful for my life. Just a few months ago, I finished my last semester at university. Now, I know I'm just another of millions of young adults finishing school, but I promise you, it was a big deal for me. I spent almost my entire life working to get there, and I was ready to celebrate. Luckily, my parents were more than happy to let me move back into the family home and stay rent-free while I tried to secure a new job. Trust me, I know just how privileged I am to have that option. I've heard horror stories of students spending $1,000 plus a month on rent. So I knew I had to take advantage of this unique position. With virtually no expenses and a steady income, I was able to save thousands in just a few weeks. And that money was still mine. No landlord, roommate, or pet taking a cut of it. And that's just one of the perks of moving back in. Of course, I had my whole room set up and ready to go. I drove a car that I bought for myself after years of saving. And I spent my time playing with my pets and eating food cooked by my mom. It was heaven. Not everything was perfect, though. Despite all the benefits, I was keen on moving out again as soon as I could. As much as I loved my family, I wanted to assert my independence, live on my own, furnish my own apartment, make my own rules. My bedroom still had posters on the walls and framed photos taken when I was a kid. Sure, I could remove that stuff, but I just felt like I was in limbo. I was neither here nor there. I missed being able to turn up my music without someone complaining. I missed having friends over and not having to worry about the noise. I missed being able to eat whatever I wanted, whenever I wanted. I guess that's just how life goes. It's all about trade-offs. For the past few months, I've been sticking to my routine, waiting for a job offer. That's really all I've been doing. Drinking coffee, going to work, going to the gym, and reading self-improvement books on the weekends. I usually hike or go on a mini road trip to somewhere within driving distance. But overall, I've been pretty inactive. One Saturday, my best friend, Lena, invited me to her family's beach house for a few days. I haven't been in years, but she told me the house is being used less frequently now that her brother moved out. So they were keen for company. Hi. I love the beach, so I accepted right away. Packed a bag, filled up the car, and headed over. Now, I won't bore you with the details of my drive there, but I will mention that I got lost due to Google Maps misdirecting me. It was a long drive that should have taken about 2 hours, but it ended up being closer to 3.5. I was excited to get there, but exhausted by the time I finally arrived. Lena's house is beautiful, even if it is a bit dated. It's on the market now, but I wouldn't buy it simply due to its location. Being on the market isn't an indication of the owner wanting to sell. I think they just wanted to test the waters and see if they would get any offers. If they did, great. If not, they could just keep it as the rental property it's currently being used as. After unloading my stuff, I followed Lena into the kitchen to grab a snack. Her parents weren't there, but they left the fridge fully stocked. so I wasn't worried. I grabbed an apple juice and walked out onto the back patio, which overlooks the ocean. I was taking a sip of my juice when I heard the door open behind me. Oh, you're awake. I thought you were going to sleep until tomorrow afternoon. I couldn't, not with that racket you guys were making. Sorry, I didn't mean to wake you. I just thought you were sleeping. Yeah, well, mission accomplished. I guess I am awake now. By the way, I'm guessing you're Lena's cousin, Justin, right? Yes, I am. I'm sorry again about waking you up. You know, I'll leave you alone for now. I'll let Lena come find you when she wakes up, okay? Oof. Sounds good. Thanks. And with that, he retreated back inside. I took another swig of my apple juice and returned to the view, pondering whether it would be worth buying the place. I also wondered where Lena was. She said she'd be home that day, but it was almost 9 p.m., and she still hadn't shown up. I figured she was just running late, but I waited until 10, with no sign of her. I decided to text her, but her phone went straight to voicemail. So I sent her a few messages asking where she was. I also texted her mom, just in case. But I received no reply. I was starting to get worried. Where the hell were they? I stood up and walked over to the glass railing, overlooking the dark ocean below. I thought about heading into town to find them, but it was too late and I didn't have a ride. I was just about to go inside when I heard the front door open. I turned to see Lena and a guy behind her. They were both holding keys. I couldn't see his face, but I could tell by his physique that he was built like seriously jacked. I looked away as he walked up behind me, and Lena spoke up. There you are. I'm sorry I'm late. I had to meet my friend Justin here. He offered to drive me home and help me carry some stuff inside. Say hi, Justin. Hey, you can just call me Jay. Come on in. It's pretty cold outside anyway. I nodded, but before I could speak, Jay stepped closer. He smiled and extended his hand for a shake. I took it. His grip was firm, but his smile was inviting. So, you're Lena's cousin. She talks about you all the time. She's lucky to have you as a cousin, by the way. Thanks for looking after the house for us. We really appreciate it, said Justin. No, it was no trouble. I was getting bored anyway. Besides, it's nice to come back to a familiar place sometimes. We walked inside, and Jay suddenly looked at me funny.